Okay, so I want to give you guys an example of how I used some exhibits. I'm going to go in more detail with some of this stuff later when the smoke clears from this. This is my court case. This is the chick that I got a protection order against, and so people might say, "Oh, you're putting her name out there, whatever." This is a public case. Anybody in the public can walk up on this case, just like any other court record. So, like some of you may know, I got a protection order against this lady, and then um, she turned around and retaliated, tried to get one against me, and then they said, "Hey, there's no domestic violence claims in here and no dates. So come back tomorrow in an emergency ex parte courtroom with some dates and some actual domestic violence." I basically advised her to conjure up some domestic violence. She didn't come back that day. They said, "Well, she never came back. We'll give her 14 days, and then her case is dismissed." It got dismissed, and then I motioned the judge, the chief family court judge, who handles this stuff, domestic violence protection orders, and I had a court hearing to have it dismissed with prejudice. And then she actually showed up for that hearing, and she said, "Well, James and I were friends, and it got flirty, but that was it." And then he became obsessed. She tried to make me look like an obsessed, scorned lover, but I had voicemails in front of the court of her saying, "You'll never find anybody as good as me. You're pretty stupid for breaking things up with me, and all this other stuff, and your love isn't real," and kind of boyfriend girlfriend talk at times that I broke up with her. So, and then in the hearing, so since this lady's a narcissist, she's in denial that that even exists. So in the hearing, she says we never dated, and that James became obsessed. So I said, "Your Honor, there's voicemails. I got voicemails from her on the record, and I transcribed them in writing of her saying boyfriend, girlfriend, loving stuff." And she shook her head no. And the information was right in front of the court. But see, she slapped papers out of the process server's hands and threw them and never read the paperwork. So she came in there and said, "We never dated," but she has a domestic violence protection order case, and you have to be somebody who dated in order to have a case. But she also checked the box in her petition that we were intimate partners. But then in front of the judge, when she's in panic mode, a narcissist, they react in panic mode, trying to cover their lies, and they just throw out a lie to cover themselves. She said we never dated to make me look and feel stupid or look like a stalker. And she said a crazy lie that went against her own paperwork. So, that being said, so she started a court action. I tried to get it dismissed with prejudice. The judge wouldn't finish the job like that. So then she started another court action, and she was a no-show for the full hearing. So she was probably drunk or high or something like that. I don't know. And then she started this third action, and I had a bunch of paperwork that I bombed the court with because she had so many lies. I had so many counters for her lies that I filed that paperwork, and she had to get we had to get a continuance because. And I'm just giving some background on this so you can kind of get the context. We had to get a continuance because there was so much paperwork at the last minute. And then we had another hearing and had to get a continuance because they didn't have time for us. So this dragged out for 3 months. And she's a domestic violence perpetrator. And she gets to go to court and file 3 different court cases against me and harass me with that. So my main point that I want to show you is, the way that I structure documents is to try and make it visually clear and easy for someone to follow along and make sure the optics are easy on the eyes. So, Respondent James Christensen's supplemental extension of my response to her frivolous petition. So I throw in a little dagger and say that this is frivolous. And then, latitude should be given to me because she had 3 months to make up all her lies. So I throw in right off the bat, in case somebody doesn't read this stuff, I want them to at least read the title of the document. So the major points of my document, I want to put in the title. This is called the caption. This beginning is structured different in different states. Most states look like this, okay? A caption. Here's pleading paper you see with the number lines over here. That's stuff you can make in... There used to be a legal wizard in Word. I haven't had to go in there again because I go off of the same legal pleading paperwork that has, the line on the right side and the numbering on the left. And that's so, hey, look at page 1, line 22, and you can read that specific line at 22. That's the whole purpose of that. So I identify myself and say why I'm here with this document. It's another 34 pages. My first one was 60. there's no limit on domestic violence proceedings because they give a whole bunch of latitude. Um, and then I explained why I should be accommodated and be able to have this other declaration. You know, my first declaration was about 60 pages long, and I still didn't get to answer every point. I got it. I was working my tail off to try and attack everything that she lied about, and I got done like right before the hearing, and so I filed it that morning. I pulled an all-nighter, and then I'm explaining why the court should have some latitude and let me do that. You know, I'm the DV victim here, and she had all this time, and I basically explain it. So before I get into this and turn them off, I give an explanation at the beginning why you should continue reading this. And then I mentioned here's how I use footnotes sometimes. So I'm talking here about, you know, this overwhelming, emotionally taxing, time-consuming process. It's been 4 months since I broke up with Lorena for the fifth and last time. And then I use a footnote. You see, the fifth and last time. You know, I'm the one who's been trying to shake her and break away from her. So I'm playing, you know, I'm the victim while she's playing victim. So I make a footnote here because I have a point to this. So I'm talking about how I broke up with her, but because she was playing me and targeting me, and later at our hearing last week, she said that I was simply a sugar daddy. I didn't know that from her perspective. That's what it was. And so she was basically crapping on me in court because he was asking, well, did you guys date? She's like, well, we were friends and we became intimate and exchanged stuff. Like, you know, I worked on her court case, and so I got benefits from that, but we were in a relationship. And she said, well, he was a sugar daddy, so yeah, we dated. So she went from telling a judge we never dated to then saying that we did get intimate, but now she's just putting down like I was just a sugar daddy, which is kind of an admission to being a prostitute. And she complained throughout the court hearing that I'm calling her a prostitute, and she said that I was a sugar daddy. That's a form of prostitution. But, you know, I got voicemails of her being more intimate than just a sugar daddy and talking about love and all this other stuff. So, back to the footnote. Here's how I interject a footnote. So I'm talking about, I broke up with her for the fifth and last time way back in May, and here we are in court. So I want to make a side note point, so I have this footnote. This footnote says, you know, blah, you know, I know that it was a fake relationship. I'm only mentioning that I broke up with her from my perspective. From my perspective at that time, I thought we were boyfriend-girlfriend. I was a target of a narcissist who plays up to 10 to 20 different men at the same time. She had 4 boyfriends in her phone at that time, you know, and I mentioned, you know, there was a fake relationship. You know, I know she pretended to be my boyfriend to get money from me, like she's done with about 1,000 other men in the past that she slept with in the past 10 years. So this is a total side point, but because that's the whole point of footnotes, is to interject a side point so that I'm not looking all over the map. So if the judge doesn't want to look at this and read this, it's on the side, and he could step away and then get back in the flow of my main point here. So just a little FYI. And then this is how I distinguish exhibits. If you go through my paperwork and go through all 34 pages, see there's 34 pages, you might say, man, he had that one good exhibit. Where was that? Again, this is optics. I can go back and they could go back and see where I mark an exhibit because it's standing out in bold and underlined. Okay, so that's just a way to do exhibits. And also along the way, when I have multiple points to make, I don't ramble on in a big long paragraph about it. That's where I jump in with, you know, bullet points or numbering. Okay. I was saying how, you know, she was juggling maybe 100 guys all last year because, like I said, you know, she has 10 to 20 boyfriends at the same time. I'm the main supply. Exhibit 41 is about narcissism, which is the main point of this video. How I use this exhibit, but I'm trying to give you some freebies along the way of my main point of this video. So I'm basically talking about what happened when the relationship ended. So I'm like, she begged, you know, I found her phone. She begged me to pull my vehicle over and talk. So she's not the victim trying to get away from me. I broke up with her, but she begged me to talk about it when I found out she had a bunch of boyfriends. Then she demanded and tried to extort me for $1,850. She sent 3 different cash apps. Give me money for going through my phone. Money is her resolution and her little high that helps her cope with the trauma of being exposed or whatever, or any conflict. She stalked me this way. She stalked me that way. She kept hitting me up on Cash App after I blocked her on different old Cash Apps I had. She's the one who contacted and DM'd my daughter. She's the one who contacted me in violation of her protection order. So I'm breaking down all the different pursuits of her. So if I had this all in one paragraph, it'd look like one paragraph, oh, James said that she pursued him. So my point here, she's trying to get a protection order against me in retaliation because I got one against her. I'm pointing out she's the chaser, the stalker, the predator. And here I am. Point number 1, she came back. Point number 2, she's following, and this is after I'm done talking to her. Point number 3, she did this. Point number 4, she did that. She's stalking me this way, that way, texting me even after domestic violence protection order is in place, this way and that way. See how that looks more like, wow, there's 9 different counts of her doing this. If I would have had a rambling paragraph that looks like this, the point visually and mentally and psychologically would get lost in the shuffle, and it may not visually hit home with the judge that, man, there's 9 different points of her stalking James. So let's go through here and see if there's anything else I want to tell you. So there's more pictures of, okay, so but for, I've done a video on this phrase, but for. She's complaining that I won't leave her alone in her domestic violence protection order. The only thing of not leaving her alone is my response to her paperwork. I'm filing declarations, I'm filing legal memorandums, I'm filing my own declaration and exhibits. And she's saying that's me not leaving her alone. But if she didn't file a protection order against me, she wouldn't have heard anything for me. So I use the phrase, but for her refusal to just walk away, and but for her relentless intransigence and stalking me and coming to court, but for her contact, we wouldn't even be here. And she's complaining I won't leave her alone with court papers. And the judge made a point. When he sends process servers to your home or when he serves you court papers, that's not him stalking you. He has a right to respond to your paperwork. So that claim of hers was totally dismissed, and she still didn't get it because in her emotional control freak narcissism, she feels like she should be able to go to court and lie about me, and I shouldn't respond and stand up to her, but I'm standing up to her and picking her apart. Okay, so I had section 1 that introduced me. I had section 2 that explained why I should be accommodated and have this big long response because she has so many lies. Point number 3 is point by point response continued from the previous declaration because I didn't get a finish. So within section 3, basically this is my argument. Section 3 is my argument. Then I have subsections 3.1. Here's arguments on, James harasses me with process servers. Here's argument number 3.2. How Lorena is living it up while playing victim. She still lives in a 3-bedroom, 2-bath apartment, $2,500, and she only has 1 5-year-old. Well, she has 4 kids, and 3 of them ran away from getting snot beat out of them. Or 2 of them did. And then I'm talking about, here I go again. Here's all the points of how well she's living. And she's claiming that I'm ruining her life. So let's get to the exhibit that I wanted to talk about. So, and sometimes when there's something, like her own 5-year-old daughter was saying her new boyfriend is a jerk. She went back to an old supply who was a boyfriend that beat her up in front of her kids, who she said forced sex on her, so he's a rapist. And he lives with his mom. Her boyfriend's name is Brian. Brian lives with his mom, doesn't have a job, and doesn't have a car, so she drives him around in her soccer mom van with bad brakes. So that's where she went to from me, her main supply, to that guy. Now, if he has, one of those things, lives with his mom, doesn't have a car, doesn't have a job, you have one of those things, that's fine. But all 3, he doesn't have anything. He's mooching off everybody, including her now. But he's the most thirsty, desperate bottom feeder and supply that she can easily go back to, so she does, after losing the supply from me. So here's another major point. I don't know what I do. Lorena equals the girl who cried wolf 100 times. So I'm making a huge point after rambling on, so I want to re-emphasize the point. And so here's another section, 3.6 in my argument. She says I have rage against black women, and then I have a bunch of declarations from black women and show that I raised my daughter, who's a biracial child. Okay, so I want to get to this real quick, and I'm running up on 15 minutes. So Exhibit 40. Now, I have a running tally of exhibits because I have 3 different declarations, and I don't want to repeat exhibit numbers, so I want them to be distinguished. So in my next declaration, I continue the numbering. Exhibit 40 is the credentials of this lady who has a narcissist page. And her, I went to her LinkedIn and got her credentials first so that they'll listen to it. And exhibit 41. Here's her going off on videos and the transcripts. Dang it, I'm at 15 minutes. Hopefully Instagram made a new limit, a higher limit. So these videos are great because it's basically a transcript of what she's saying. So I show that she's an expert. She has, you know, psychology degrees and counseling degrees, and she's doing narcissistic videos on narcissists. And I'm showing how these things are exactly what this lady Lorena is doing, or her profile or her act. Now, if you notice, I have a bunch. So in Exhibit 41. Here's a separator sheet. So when they flip through it, or when I'm scrolling through it, or, you know, like when you see in Adobe Acrobat, like look at how when you scroll through this really fast, you could call it a breaker page or a slip sheet. See, Exhibit 40, Exhibit 41, when you're scrolling through, some people use a black page and white lettering, but it's a divider page. So when you're scrolling through, you can see, oh, there's another exhibit. Like when this exhibit's done, there's another breaker page or separator page. And then I put a tab on that if I hand in hard copies. Exhibit 1, little, you know, post-it note tabs that the judge can flip through. But everything's pretty much electronic now. So that's how I organize this stuff. And if you notice, look at the bottom right, I use Adobe Acrobat bait stamping to create a page number. Whoops, sorry. So there's a page number in the bottom right corner there. Because I have, within Exhibit 41, I have about 10 pages. So if I want to tell the judge, hey, look at Exhibit 41, page 4, this expert is talking about how narcissists dedicate so much time to isolating their victims by maintaining false identities that portrays them as charming, adorable, virtuous. Narcissists are so good that the abuse their victims experience often goes unnoticed by those on the outside of the relationship. So, but there's some really good stuff in here. You know, a narcissist will try and come back to you and keep you, and they need their exes, every single one. And then, like I said, she went back to this guy who beat her up in front of her kids. Like she told me, she told one of her other baby's dads, oh, he beat me up again. But she's back to him, and she's cool because she's so toxic. She's cool with violence, even violence to traumatize her own child. And she said, I'm so worried that he might have molested my 5-year-old. I haven't said, he's not that crazy. He wouldn't have done that. And she's like, I don't know. He's capable of anything. I wouldn't put it past him. So she goes back to the ex and puts him around the 5-year-old that he might have molested. Either she's lying about him to get empathy for me, or she's just that crazy that she'll date a child molester. And the guy beat her up in front of her kids, and everybody knows it, and she never called the cops on him, and she wants a restraining order against me. So that was another argument that I made. She wanted a lifelong restraining order against me, but she's just worried that I'm exposing her and that her game is being run. So this is an example of how I use videos like that have this transcribed stuff. So I'm going to skim through and see if there's anything else that I want to, like, here's an example. She also said, you know, in a text message that she sent me, in violation of the protection order, where she's harassing me and say, my daughter's never going to know her mom because you hate black women. Well, here's a picture of my daughter at our home 20 years ago, and a card from her mom that I propped up so that she can maintain the bond even though the mom abandoned her. So I'm basically disproving all her bull crap. And there's another picture of her with a card from her mom. I bought her a t-shirt that said Mommy's Favorite, so the rare time she had a visit, you know, I'm facilitating it and make her mom not feel as bad, even though she was the abandoner, you know, that kind of stuff. So that's not all that relevant right now. Let's see here. So I just pick apart her arguments with pictures. And then I'm not sure what else I'm showing here. Oh, so here's proof of service. She said that she never got served. Actually, she was lying about papers that got served her, so I'm using a proof of service on this thing. So anyway, so here's, you know, another divider page. I went up to Exhibit 50, and then you can see over here on the side how the divider page stands out. See that break right there? There's an exhibit with pictures there, and then there's a breaker page, and there's an exhibit. So just a little something on how I do. I basically want to show how I use the Instagram page with the transcripts of a video so that I could get somebody's expertise and put a face with it, so it's a more of a visual. So that's that.